What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 13 of the Blue River Bowhunting Podcast. I have a pretty cool guest lined up this week with me with Scott Thompson from Texas. How's it going, Scott?
Doing great, sir. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Monday, you got to shake the cobwebs off a little bit, but short week with the holidays coming up is always nice, and I'm kind of ready to do some relaxing.
Yes, sir. Same here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Scott.
So a little bit about myself. So I guess, as it relates to archery and bow hunting, I've only really been bow hunting for about a year or so.
Hmm.
I got into it last season. I'm originally from Northern California, believe it or not. Um, I'm like, as soon as I say California, they're like, okay, oh man, wait, Brett, where'd you go? Wait, what? Brett. Oh, sorry, see it. Yeah, no, no, I get crap from being from California down here in Texas, and I've been here. January 13. So, about 9 years now. I love it here, and my whole family's out here and stuff now too. So,
That's cool.
uh,
You're kind of joking around about California. I see a lot of like stuff on social media. Some people from out in California being outdoorsy, just like everybody else. Looks like they got some good duck hunting out there. They kill a lot of different species compared to like out east here.
yeah, it's it's kind of crazy. When I moved here, people were like, so do you surf? I'm like, man, I've never even been on a surfboard, but it's funny, like if you've been there, really like Northern California and Southern California are just kind of two different worlds. Northern, is more northern, and Central Valley is more agriculture, a lot of farming. So yeah, I grew up in the town of Chico. It's about an hour and a half north of Sacramento,
Hmm.
and up in that area, in that Northern California region, you got tons and tons of rice fields, and it's a bird hunter's paradise in
Oh,
the fall.
absolutely.
I've never done any duck hunting myself, but in the fall around November, it's just you drive north of 99 and all the ducks landing on the water and the sun. I mean, it's picturesque, man. It's
Uh,
amazing.
I guarantee it. So tell us a little bit how you got started in hunting.
Um, Man, if I had to go back to my first time I ever killed anything, so my dad grew up in a little town of Fiddletown, California. There's probably 300 people that live there, and it's northeast of Sacramento. It's in the Gold Rush country in the hills, and he grew up on 300 acres as a kid, and we had that property in our family up until about 2001. But as a kid, every summer we'd go and tromp around there all day, take a day, and just go tromp around, and we go ground squirrel hunt.
Hmm.
And I had my 22, and so I was probably 10 or 11, and I killed my first ground squirrel, and I remember that night, like it hit me that I had killed an animal, like I had taken a life, and I remember like it upset me, like I was in the shower or something, and I was kind of upset. I think my dad knocked on the door. He's like, "Hey, you okay?" But yeah, that was the first time in my life I was like, "Man, this is," I took the life of something, and yeah, but I really didn't start big game hunting, I guess big game, but like whitetail hunting until I moved
Hmm.
to Texas.
And that you just fell in love with it when did somebody
Yeah.
show it to you, or did you just kind of venture out on your own?
Yes, sir. Somebody showed it to me. So when I first moved here, there's a gentleman, Jonathan, I worked with on my first project. So my degree's in construction management, and I work for a commercial general contractor here in the Dallas office.
Hmm.
I'm in Mansfield I live in Mansfield between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Hmm.
Um, but we were on a project together. It was a hospital up in Richardson in North Texas, and it was one of the first guys I met, like day two here in Texas, and he really took a lot of time, out of his day. He didn't have to teach me things and everything, a lot about construction. And then even outside of work, he and his wife said, "Hey, you want to go?" I'm a big fan of Texas country music, just the Texas music scene. So we'd go see live music. So he took a lot of time and stuff he didn't have to do to kind of get me, make some friends here and show me stuff. Well, he and his dad have some property kind of southeast Texas.
Hmm.
And November came around, I hadn't even been here a year yet. And he goes, well, it was a fall. And he goes, "Hey, November, opening weekend of rifle seasons, first week in November, you want to come with us to deer hunt?" And I was like, yeah, so yeah, they have, a couple, of course, in Texas, a lot of people know, like, stands and the feeder kind of set up.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, that was it was November 13th, my first time out. deer hunting. So
Oh, that's cool, man. Were you
yeah,
successful in any going out that weekend, or
no
was it
sir, I
a
wasn't.
huge lesson learned?
It was a huge lesson learned, and kind of like, I just totally new to it. But man, I my first, so that was November of 2013, and I actually shot my first deer in November of 17. So I'd gone every year, been 4 years, kind of dry spell. I've seen does and stuff, but
Right.
um, yeah, our company, we're kind of fortunate. Our company actually has a lease out in West Texas that we lease from a rancher.
That's
Um,
awesome.
a few thousand. Yeah, it's cool. We've got stands and feeders set up, and so fall comes around and the email comes out to the company that, hey, here's the Excel spreadsheet. Sign up for your weekend, and during the summertime, I'll go out with folks too. We'll get teams and do work on the property and fill feeders and stuff. So my first buck was out at that property, and
Well,
then
that's
2 years
awesome.
late, yeah, 2 years later, got a 9 point at Jonathan's property in East Texas. So,
Well, that's cool. It seems like you got uh, 4 years under your belt with the gun. You kind of learning the deer situation out before you got behind that bow. What might have been even more than if you didn't kill your last deer or your first bow kill until last year. So what was that, 5 6 years or so?
yeah, yeah, 5 or 6 years. So
Oh, I'm sure something like that'll definitely prep you. I mean, I'm sure you just having those experiences in the deer woods, got you ready to try it with a bow. At least you had something under your belt to try to figure out.
yes, sir. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the main reason I wanted to have Scott on here with me is because he is just starting out in bow hunting, but it's not the reason. I mean, like I had him on because this is his second year bow hunting, but the way that he's approaching everything that we're about to go through is why I want to have him on. He is an attention to detail, and it shows in a lot of these things. When we had conversations prior to the podcast, I was like, oh wow, this is gonna be a great conversation because like we were talking on the phone the other day, a lot of people listen to these podcasts and that, they really retain information and they can make you a better hunter. And like you said, you listen to a lot of podcasts and, listen to some business podcasts, some inspirational podcasts, everything that lines you up to, how you go through all these steps to do this. And that's why I want to have you on. So to
Cool.
everybody listening, you are in for a great conversation because some of these things are, I mean, I've been bow hunting for, I think this was my 19th year, and I'm
Yeah.
learning stuff from him, and he's only been doing it 2 years. So, and we'll get into it later, but he does some saddle hunting, and me and a couple guys on my team ish, if that's what you want to call it, we're gonna jump into the saddles next year. So I'm already trying to prep myself. I need to lose a few lbs before I really get up in that tree, but it'll happen.
Oh
So
man.
hunting Texas, I'm from
Yes, sir.
Indiana, cornfield, flatland. What kind of terrain are you hunting there in Texas?
Man, that's well, it's funny. Like, think about Texas. I mean, there's just four different kinds of. You got the West Texas, the flat kind of plains. You've got East Texas, which you get into like some thick pines. Um, so, South Texas is a lot of like low mesquite and kind of scrub brush and stuff, and you get thick back in there with cactuses, where they've got a lot of like covered quickly to run into.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've kind of I've hunted west, kind of hunted east, and been in the south as well. But really, where I'm archery hunting, it's that East Texas. For me, kind of northeast
Mm-hmm.
out there. You start getting back in the pine trees and into some thick stuff where you've got just with those tall pine trees. That's where your opportunity is to set up the saddle and get high. So
Right. But there's a lot of pines, and it probably creates a lot of bedding areas with them pines.
yeah, it's using so, and I use Onyx to do some e-scouting a little bit
Mm-hmm.
too, and so I started tromping around back there, and it's funny, these patches. It's one of the things I hear these guys have been hunting a while talk about is look for the thick stuff. Some of these older guys. With Bobby Worthington, like Tim Knight, some of these older guys I've heard on podcasts to talk about, man, the bow kill, my biggest bucks I've ever found are back in the thickest, nastiest stuff. And man, there were some spots, I scouted up in Oklahoma on some public land this year that it was funny. You just see like a wall thick, and all of a sudden you're just back in waist high, can't see. I mean, so I just try to find the thick stuff, find those those transitions. So
Yeah, that's cool. That was somebody gave us a tip before we went to Ohio because I don't technically do a whole lot of public land hunting, and that was one of the tips that we were given prior to going was find the thickest, nastiest stuff that you can find on that public, and get deep in it. So
Yeah.
that's exactly what I did, and it didn't. I mean, it turned out good because I killed something, but it was a whole nother experience, and in going into that, you get to hunt public land. How is your public land there? Is it super high pressure, a lot of guys, or is it like big enough where you can kind of spread yourself out?
Man, the pieces of public that I've hunted so far haven't been too high pressure. This last weekend, or I guess 1 week ago. So, yeah, the 11th. I was that chunk. There's a couple different pieces to that public land, and the little dirt parking lot that I parked in and went back into. I got there when it was dark and hiked back in and came out in the afternoon. And early afternoon, it was my truck was the only one there.
That's
So
awesome.
other times I've seen one truck there. Then there's some other dirt lots and some other campsites where I'll see 2 or 3 trucks, and I don't know if folks tend to like to hunt that area more, but I try to just get away from the people, you
Right.
know.
I
So
guarantee it. We talk a little bit about the scouting. So is you did a lot of it through e-scouting, or was you able to go and just get boots on the ground and check it out prior?
both, yeah.
Both.
So e-scouting in the summertime, just yeah, getting on Onyx really, and and I've listened to some podcasts talk about topography, and of course like the hunting public guys, man, that's
Hmm.
such a great resource too. All the times they've talked about topography and saddles and drainages and this and that, and so I would just try to not that we have rolling deep hills in Texas or anything like that. It's
Right.
not too drastic, but I would just try to find those features on the map and find water, and then and it was for me, it was kind of like connecting the dots. Right, I got water here, I got thick cover here, and during all I was scout after I would e-scout, I'd get out and hike around in September, pack a bunch of water and snacks, and just hike and have a good time. And the sign that I would really only see was like scat on the ground. I didn't really even see many like rubs or scrapes per se.
Hmm.
But man, it was some of those. It was exciting because some of those points that I plotted on X to go check out, man, all of a sudden I'd see scat within like 40, 50 yards. And you're like, oh man, kind of like it's like an affirmation. You're like, holy shit,
Right.
maybe I'm doing something right. Like I'm bonking around out here. I'm like sometimes wondering, like, God damn, am I doing this right? Like, but
What about ag as far as these public land? Is there any ag like corn, beans, anything like that?
no, sir. It's just it's really like so in East Texas, there's a bunch of oak trees, and so I'm kind of go back on the oaks a little bit, so it's kind of like the food source I'm finding. And again, I'm there's other guys I'm sure that have been, matter of fact, there are guys who've been hunting East Texas that for years that I've heard as guests on podcasts, and so I'm trying to learn from them because, and there may be, that's my best answer for your question. Like I said, I'm still pretty new to all this, so.
No, that's just like having this conversation. I'm learning some stuff about Texas, and learning about how you're honing in some of these bow skills, and then you can learn stuff from me. I mean, I'm not much on the talking end right now, but you're more welcome to text or call me at any time, and I'll answer the phone, buddy.
Yeah, I
But
appreciate it. Thank you.
stand locations, how did you determine exactly where you thought you were going to set up when you came back into hunting?
So really, like, so the spot that I've been successful at, I guess, getting my first two public land archery bucks now. It was a spot that before the leaves had dropped and started to thin out in the wintertime. So of course I was scouted in kind of I was like October or so last year. It was kind of thick. It was right next to a part of the forest. It kind of got thick, and I had seen scat. I was like, okay, I'm kind of at the top of a drainage here, and so I just was like, you know what? I guess it's a good a spot it isn't as any, because like I said, that was my first season, and so I came back in, and when hunting season started, and set up a saddle, and man, it was think it was early mid-November last year, sitting up there. I'd seen movement, seen does. Even when I was setting up my saddle one morning last season, there was a really young buck that just was kind of tromping through, and it was, light was just coming up. I still had my green light on, my headlamp, and I just froze like, and he kept moving on by, didn't notice me, and I got up. So that was kind of like, okay, cool. There's some activity. All right. And, yeah, that was, I think it was my second or third time last season, hunting, that tree. And it was funny because a week before the prior week, I was watching a Hunting Public, video, and, the apprentice, like the cameraman, they had seen some big buck and it ran off, and they looked at the cameraman, and this kid, I don't know, he's been 19, 20, and his legs shaking. And they're like, yeah. And he was like, I can't believe what I just saw. Well, I'm up in the tree. It was like my third time in that tree, and this bruiser just came cruising through. And it was really interesting because there were some oak leaves on the ground at that point, and these younger bucks that would tromp through was like just like sloppy,
Right.
And then I was looking to the north, and so over my left shoulder to the west, I hear it's kind of rustling. I thought maybe it's an armadillo or something cruising through. I look over, and this just toad is just, he's like gliding on the leaves, and I just grunt call, I grunt, and he stops and looks to me about 2 seconds, and he kept moving. And when he looked at me, he was probably 20 inches, like just dark fur. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I froze, like I didn't grunt again, but there my leg was shaking, and I was like, I'm just like that cameraman. Oh my god.
It'll get way worse, buddy. Trust me, it'll get way worse. This year, when I shot my buck, he was at 10 yards, if that.
Oh yeah.
And I put an arrow in him. He did the big mule kick and went running down the ridge, and I had to hold on. I had my bow hook kind of come out there, and I stuck my arm up on it, and I could feel my arm shaking. I was like, oh my god. And then I'm calling people, hey, you need to help me. I shot a nice one. It wasn't the biggest deer in my life, but it was nice enough for me to be shaken. It was just like a whirlwind of emotions. It was something that didn't really happen to me that often because I hadn't been behind the bow. I'd been behind the camera. And it's a different shake. I still get that shake behind the camera too. Like earlier, I can't remember the exact date. It was mid to late October, and I was filming for my buddy Ryan on the river, and we're right on the river. And I just happened to look over, and I just catch the ass end of this deer, going through the river, coming to our side, and then I kind of, through the trees, seeing the rack, and I was like, "Oh, good buck, and I'm smacking him like, "Good buck," and I look over, and this 6-pointer, he was a 6-pointer. This is probably one of the biggest 6-pointers I ever seen. He had real big mass for only having 6 points, and he actually had a unicorn point that came out like in between his brow tines. And I was like, oh my god, I want him to shoot this deer so bad. I was shaking up in there, and he got to about 55, 60 yards ish, and he was cruising down the river. He didn't look back. He didn't come back this way or nothing. But he kind of came out of the picture and whatnot. And I turned the camera off, and I turned around. And I was like, man, he had me shook up.
Yeah.
It was just a fun story for being behind the camera and still being shook up. I can attest to that camera guy on the Hunting Public.
Oh yeah, no, that dude that I saw, just bruiser I saw, I still like dream about him, man. It's like I can see it like clear as day. And I told some buddies I work with, I nicknamed him Double Wide, man, because he was just super wide. And I was like, man, I hope Double Wide's there this year.
So do you run trail cameras at any point throughout the season?
No, so I had gotten a couple Moultrie trail cameras with a cell link last year, just because guys are talking about it. I'm like, well, shoot, yeah, I'll give that a shot. And then I'm up there at 18 feet and turn it on, and it's like no signal.
Oh, wow.
And so, I brought them back home, and I never really got into it too heavy.
I would think it would be hard to have something like that out on public because you don't want somebody taking your stuff. We actually have like lock boxes for our some of our spy points that we put out. We actually drill the lock box to the tree. They're made for the cameras. You put your camera in there, put a padlock on it, walk away. We've actually had people. We thought they were trespassers, but they weren't trespassers. They had permission on the other piece so that we were hunting kind of the edge of it, and they're walking right up on the camera. I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna take the camera, but they'd have to have some kind of bolt cutters or something to get it. Which
Yeah.
time they did that, I already been over there intercepting. But it's kind of cool. You talk about we're talking about Oklahoma too. So how many times have you went up there and hunted, or is it something that you do on a regular basis?
So I went up there. Shoot, it was late or early October and late October. Uh, I think one more time in early November. I just, man, since this bow season started in October 3rd, I've been out, with the exception of 2 weekends, I've been going out every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, not married yet and no kids. So, so
Yeah,
it's,
you better take advantage of that now.
I know, right? Yeah. So, so I'm, kind of fortunate in that regard to just kind of go out any weekend that I want really. But, no, I went out there early season and it's, I quickly realized that I'm going to have to study up and work a little harder and do some things different in the early season, and kind of study that aspect more because when that rut comes around in the later season and they're out moving, I mean, it's just easier. I mean, you're going to see the movement, but obviously early season they're not moving much on the day at all. But that early season, the only thing I was able to kill was a water moccasin or I guess a cottonmouth. It was man, it was this public land in Oklahoma, and I'm hiking back and the gotten dark and a headlamp on, and there's probably 700 yards of like waist high grass from the tree line that you got to go through once to get to my dirt parking lot where my truck's at. So I'm going through all this waist high grass, and I get out to a little dirt road that's right next to my parking spot. I'm like, man, what's that black thing stretched out on the dirt about 2.5 feet long? And I shine my lamp on it. I'm going, that looks kind of
That's
and
iffy.
yeah, it's iffy. So I had my 45, my chest rig. So I put around and I think it skimmed over the top of his back, just pissed him off. But when he did, that mouth reared around in my headlamp, and I was like, yeah, it's coming out. So yeah, that was the only thing I got up in Oklahoma was
So what made you, or what led to your choice of heading to Oklahoma? Just because it was close in another state where you could kill another buck?
yeah, pretty much. And the other thing too is there's an Instagram page follow like Bucks of Oklahoma,
Mm-hmm.
and man, I'm always seeing just some pictures of bruisers on there, and it's just also too. I mean, Oklahoma is just beautiful, man. I mean,
I think Oklahoma gets overlooked quite a bit, actually. I know a
mhm.
guy that I've had on the show. Yeah, can't think of the name at this point, but Kyle Campbell.
Okay.
He was the cameraman, and they went out there to Oklahoma, and he shot a pretty nice buck out there. They were on an Indian reservation, if I'm not mistaken.
Huh. I'll be darned.
Somehow they got in on that. I don't know if it was an outfitter or what, but he shot a pretty nice buck out there.
Huh. I'll be damned. Yeah. There was a day that I had scouted out there, and I was tromping through the grass, and I was like, it was that point I kind of described a minute ago. I was just coming out of the tree line, getting to this tall grass, and there was a couple trees in front of me, just real low canopies. And it was funny. If I hadn't looked up in the moment, I wouldn't have seen him, but I jumped up. It was a good looking buck. I mean, he was just bedded down in that tall grass and jumped. But yeah, they're out there.
Yeah, for sure. Now, going on to private land conversation, talk a little bit about the process that you have been doing on trying to get these private land permissions.
Oh yeah, so looking or listening to, like you mentioned a little bit ago, I listen to all kinds of podcasts just about try to be a sponge, man, and just listen.
Right.
And and I like listening to the Meat Eater crew, Stephen Ranella and Giannis and Mark Kenyon and all those folks. And it was funny. I think somebody, they were talking to, I think Giannis Patelis, and they were asking, like if you go back and do, and years pass and do something over again, what would you do? And he goes, man, I would have asked for more permission. But I was afraid because I was afraid of that no answer. I was afraid of getting rejected. But it's like, what do I got to lose? And all they're going to say is no. And so I kind of took that to heart, and I was like, well, I'm going to ask permission. So I get on Onyx, and I'm looking at properties, and you click on the land, gives you the PO box and everything. And so I think, like with anything in life, I think it's all about giving a shit. And so it's like, it's like you always want to, whether it's a job interview, right? You want to set yourself apart from the pack. And so that's the way I kind of approached asking permission. And I was like, man, so I typed up a cover letter, and I made a resume. I took a photo of me from, I think, a company event, or button down shirt and everything. And then, describe, hey, background on myself. I've got a degree. I've got family in the area. This is what they do. My sister's a police officer. And just kind of like, and then a cover letter too. And the cover letter just, I think it was 4 or 5 sentences, basically saying, hey, I do have experience, on public land. And I'm, made sure that, what I packed in, I packed out. And, if I'm lucky to have permission to hunt on your land, I'm going to treat it with the most, utmost respect, and practice an unwavering commitment to safety, and just really, I wanted to give them that comfort level and put them at ease, because that's the other thing too. You always got to put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Absolutely.
Right. I think, and it's funny because when you and I were talking, and you mentioned the importance of just listening, which is so huge. And, you listen to Jocko Willink, his podcast, and, business leadership or whatever it is, he talks about that leadership trait or leadership quality of listening. I think the other thing too is not only listening, but just putting yourself in another person's shoes, understanding their perspective. Right. And so that's what I was trying to do, is just put them at ease, give them a comfort level. And so I sent 5 resumes out and cover letters, and I got this, it was like 3 weeks later, I got this call out of the blue, and it's this old man, and he's the North Carolina number, with as many calls as I get now telling me that my fucking auto warranty is out. And
Right.
I see a number I don't know, and I'm like, but so I think I did screen the call, and I was like, oh, listen voicemail. So I listened to voicemail, and it's this older gentleman on North Carolina. He says, yeah, Mr. Thompson, you wrote me, and I'm calling to let you know about my property, and give me a call when you get a second. Oh, okay. So I call him.
Call it right back.
And so I call him, and I say, sir, how are you? And, oh, yeah, no, I got your letter. And he's been out in North Carolina for 30 years. He taught something. He's like a civil engineer or something like that. So, and he's retired and been retired for years. And he goes, man, people have been asking me to hunt that property for years, but I was so impressed with your cover letter resume. I'll let you hunt my property. I'm going to let you hunt, I'll give you the month of October, because I got 3 guys that rifle hunt. And, you can't hunt in November when they're there, but I'll give you October. And I was like, holy cow, man. Like,
we'll take that any day.
Yeah. So
now that's just cool, because it's like it's almost like a professional business approach to the hunting world. And, you said you sent 5 out and you got 1 back. That's better than 0.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And, a buddy of mine that listens to the show and has his own podcast, Hunt the Wild, he did the same thing, sort of. Like, he just wrote letters and asked for permission and blah, blah, blah. But, sure. And I'm not sure if he got any hits back on that or not, but, you say you put the, the resume and the cover letter on there and you get 1, you might be onto something. I might have to try this out. Because there's tons of places that I've been, dying to ask, but it's like, I'm not even going to go do it because I know I'm going to get rejected. And it seems like, sometimes with hunting property, you can almost luck into it sometimes, like a few pieces that we have, it's almost like, I don't know how to explain it. The pieces fell into place and it's like, oh, wow, I feel very comfortable asking this person if I can hunt their property. Like a lady that works with my wife at the hospital, moved in. They bought a farm just down from us I mean, it's probably less than 2 miles from my house, and I'm like, let's go check it out, you know. So
Yeah.
we drive over there, and I'm like, oh wow. I said, will you, can I get a number for them or something? So ends up getting the husband's number, and I call him and I ask, and he said absolutely, and I'm like, awesome. So I actually picked that
Well,
up
right
the
on.
day before season came in. So like September 31st, I got permission.
Holy shit.
We immediately went in, hung 2 stands, cameras. That's where I shot my buck this year.
Man,
And I didn't even. I mean, it wasn't even like I did a whole bunch of work on this property this year. It was like a hang and hunt, and it worked out. And
mhm.
sometimes the pieces can just fall into place like that.
Sometimes, man, it's like a God thing sometimes. You know,
Right? Absolutely.
I just the way life works out, man, and just you I can tell you are, it's like you're just thankful,
I am so appreciative of some of the
Yeah.
opportunities that I've had, and not just deer hunting, turkey hunting. I've been very fortunate to know a lot of people down in the state of Kentucky. Where I used to go down there for a week every year. I didn't go last year, and I didn't go the year before because of COVID. But I was
Hmm.
very fortunate. It seemed like every year that I went, I was killing a bird down there. And this
Huh.
older lady that was friends with my grandma that lived down there, she said, "Oh, Brad, he's the best turkey hunter I ever met." I was thinking, lady, there's so many turkeys down here, it's hard not to kill one. I could just go sit in the field anywhere and probably kill one. I need to go down there deer hunting, really, but uh,
Yeah.
that might be another year. But talking about, I was talking about licensing fees a couple of podcasts ago with Jason Bertram.
Mm.
State of Kentucky is like 375 out of state for deer.
Mm.
That is crazy. And we seen, I don't know exactly how true it is, and I hope it's not true at all, but they're talking about raising the price for resident and non-resident in the state of Indiana, and it would go from like my license is like $60. I bought that's
Mm.
2 does and a buck, and I get to use it on everything for like bow, gun, muzzleloader, everything instead of buying separate tags, which you still can do. But they're talking
Hmm.
about taking that to like $95. It's like, oh my
What?
god! And like our out of state right now, non-resident is like 150 ish. They're
Huh,
talking about
that's
raising
good.
it to $500. I
Oh
don't think
my.
anybody is going to pay $500 to come hunt Indiana. If you're going on
Huh.
public, you're definitely not paying $500 because I can tell you right now, our public land is crazy. It's wild, wild west.
Really?
But it seems like with them doing that and Illinois being 700 and something non-resident, it seems
Huh.
like they would push more people to Ohio, which is only 250 non-resident. I mean, I don't know
Mm.
if they have any plans of jacking that price up at all, but do you know what kind of like tag a non-resident would go for down there in Texas?
Uh, non-resident, I'm not sure. I know my non-resident tag in Oklahoma was 280.
That ain't bad
Uh,
though. That ain't bad.
yeah,
Is
no,
that
but
one deer or is that multiple deer?
there is I want to say there's no limit.
Oh, really?
Like
Wow.
it was crazy too because so in Texas when you get your license, like you get a tag like with a certain amount of buck tags, a certain amount of doe tags and everything, like that's your limit and everything. And when I when I got my license for Oklahoma in the mail, a week later came my plastic card as my license, everything, keep your wallet and everything. I was like, well, that's weird. Like, there's no tags or whatever. And I called up the Oklahoma Wildlife Department down there or up there, and I was like, so what do you do with the tag? And she's like, oh, well, people make their own tag and put on their buck. And I was like, okay. So I took a 3x5 card and like taped it, like I laminated it and punched a hole in it and wrote my name and license. I'm like, this is my tag, I guess, for
Ours
if I.
used to be you had to put a transport tag on it. So you had to like
Hmm.
wrap a piece of paper around it and you had to write the license number,
Mm-hmm.
the county that you killed it, the method that you killed it, I think is all. Maybe your birthday
Mm-hmm.
or the time. I can't remember what it all. But now there isn't even in that. You just have to go online, you check it in, and then you're free to take it wherever you want to take it.
Interesting.
So how many bucks can you kill in the state of Texas?
I believe it's three. I think three is your limit.
Gotcha.
So
Do you think they would have, some problems if they tried to bump that number down, or is that they have a pretty healthy deer population?
I think it kind of depends, depending on what area of the state you're in. So I know, like in certain areas of the state, like there's a 13-inch rule. Like, so anything with an inside spread of less than 13 inches is illegal to shoot.
Oh, I got you. That's
But
cool. That could probably create some pretty big deer.
yeah, so yeah. I mean, to answer your question, yeah, it might cause some problems.
Hmm. I
But
guarantee it. So I know very little about it, so I'm not even sure I'm going down the right alley here. But the high fencing stuff in Texas, like, how's that whole thing work? I don't understand it, to be honest with you.
yeah, there are some high fences where, I mean, people, outfits will they'll high, and I don't know a whole lot about it either. There are some outfits that will have a high fence and basically breed deer. So you get these just genetic freaks that
Right,
you
300
know
inches and shit.
30 points and stuff like that. So it's funny. There's I know of a framing and drywall company that our company works with a lot. Like, they've got a lease out in West Texas, where they've got a high fence, and they've got some pretty monster deer out there, and people get
I
invited to
bet.
shoot. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, I've never gone out to a high fence and shot a high fence deer, but hey, it's there if you want.
That's there
So
if you even want to go down that avenue.
yeah,
I don't
it's
think I would
there.
like it. I like the challenge of chasing these free range bucks or free range
Yeah,
deer. Period. I mean, we had a god awful year here. I mean, I was
really.
fortunate enough to take a decent buck, and I know some buddies that have killed some decent bucks and nice bucks, and
Mhm.
I just didn't see the deer numbers this year that I'm used to seeing. Like, my Hancock County spot, sometimes you sit there, you might see between 8 to 10 deer, each time that you hunt almost.
Mhm.
And, it's like I didn't see that anywhere. I mean, um, the guy that I filmed most of the time, Ryan, yesterday was our last day for muzzleloader. Our season's only in for like another week, period.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
he was fortunate enough to take a doe last day of muzzleloader, pretty much as he's walking out of the woods, and that's the only deer he killed this year. And my neighbor, who I filmed quite a bit, he hasn't killed one this year, and he's usually covered up in deer. We were
Hmm.
fortunate enough to his youngest son got to shoot his first ever deer in youth season this year. So there was deer there, but it's like every time me and him hit the woods with a camera, they were nowhere to be found. And I hear a lot of people having that problems this year, which it's just nuts in general, I think, because usually Indiana, I mean, like, we'd get done hunting, and we call it driving the block. We just
Hmm.
drive around, see if we see anything out in the fields, or the hunter down the road, see if he's got anything in the back of his truck or whatever. And I just
Hmm.
didn't see that. I mean, that was one of my favorite things about gun season here. Like, the first weekend of gun season, you could pretty much just drive around after you're done hunting, and see the trucks and stuff, or you can see the orange from a distance, and you see deer running around like crazy because there's so many. I mean, I wouldn't say because there's so many people out there, but you got the rut going on, and you got people in the woods with guns.
Hmm.
You're used to seeing just the deer running around, and I just didn't see that this year. It was a
Hmm.
really weird year for me. It may not be the same for everybody, but I spent a lot of time in the woods, like a lot of time, I spend more time weekly in the woods than some people go to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I spent the time there, but it didn't necessarily pay off like I thought it would pay off. Because
Yeah.
when you get to chasing some of these big bucks that you got on camera, all summer long, and you're just like so amped to get out there, and you spend, hours and hours and hours in the stand and don't see anything, it could really catch up with you pretty quick and really get you down in the dumps.
Yeah. I mean, why have you speculated as to why that is? Like, do you have a feeling? Like, what do you think?
I mean, honestly, me and Ryan, we blame it on the weather.
Mm.
It's January or it's December here. It's almost Christmas, and we just haven't had like cold weather. Period. Like
Oh, yeah.
today, the high was in the 40s. I mean, the low was in the 20s. That's can be cold considered most people. But I'm talking
Hmm.
about I want the high to be like 10 degrees. to be late muzzleloader season. This is the first time that I haven't muzzleloader hunted in the snow. We haven't had snow here yet.
Huh.
And it's crazy. I mean, especially because when the deer season wraps up, we bird hunt, we duck hunt, and we haven't seen hardly any birds around because we don't get that push from the north with the cold fronts and the snow and the ice. The birds like to stay right in front of that, on that edge of that freeze, and it ain't getting that cold. So I think it's messing with a lot of things. And to jump into another kind of topic here, post-secondary rut, or the second rut, I've usually been tagged out or, done deer hunting by then. And the latest I've really ever seen any rut activity is like right there at the end of November, like the 26th of November, somewhere in there. Personally, that's the end of it for me, is what I've seen. Last week, I saw a pretty nice buck breed a doe in the middle of a field, and it was December something. That's the latest I've personally ever seen any rut action. And this dude wasn't just breeding. He was making scrapes. He was making rubs. I watched him for like 2.5 hours. I was actually in the barn at my aunt's house watching this deer through binoculars, just like having a show. Let's pop some popcorn, get some beer going. This dude's chasing this doe everywhere, And ended up seeing, and this is literally right across the road from where I hunt, my main spot. And he chased those does over there, and I'm like, oh wow, this is we need to get this happening. We need to go over there, but there's a creek that runs right through the middle of it, and we've had a lot of rain lately, so I don't think there's any crossing that creek right now unless I put a 12 by something over the top of the thing, walked it like a pirate or something, But that's the latest I've ever seen in a secondary rut action, and it really opened my eyes. If I don't have a buck down by then, who's to say I couldn't have been out there when he's chasing this thing, I just happened to be coming home from work. I stopped into my aunt's to get a crock pot that I left there from a Christmas party. And I look out the window, and I'm like, holy shit, look at this thing. He's chasing her around in circles, mounting her, doing the thing. I'm like, well, this is crazy.
Dang. Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny, too. I was talking to Jonathan, who I mentioned earlier, and when we were out, it's like every year, that first week in November, it's he, his dad, and myself, always get invited to go every year down and hunt on their property. A wood bunkhouse that was built back when Jonathan was a kid. His dad and his grandpa built it, and we took a gentleman who works with us, Kane, and Kane had never been deer hunting, and it was funny because up until like a year or two ago, he hadn't owned a gun, but with all the kind of like turmoil and just the way the world just, down seems to be up these days, and it's just anyways, don't get me started, but he was like, man, I want to get a few guns to protect my family, maybe.
Absolutely.
And then he was like, hey, I want to learn how to shoot a deer, and I want to learn how to gut it and quarter it and everything. And so so he came along with us this opening weekend of rifle season, beginning of this last November, and man, that first Saturday morning he was out, he shot a 6-pointer.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh man, I was like, whoa! That's the other thing that's fun too about hunting, man, is seeing your friends succeed and have success, man. It's like, god dang, it's like I'm on the side of a football line. I'm like, god yes, I find him, man, like
chest
so
bumping
awesome.
And shotgunning beers in the field next to the deer and shit.
Yeah, I told him, I was like, man, I went 4 years without seeing a buck, and I was like, dude, your first morning. I was like, oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it don't normally work like that, but my cousin Alan, he says I have a golden horseshoe up my ass because every time I hunt with somebody for the first time, it's like a legendary hunt. And that's happened a few times. Like the first time I ever took him turkey hunting, I shot the biggest turkey of my life. The first 20 minutes we're in the woods. I've hunted with people for the first time, and it goes crazy. Like another buddy of mine, Spencer, we were on the streak there for a couple of years. I would hunt with him one time a year, and I shot these deer back-to-back years with him on the one time that I hunted with him.
Oh, dang.
I was like, you get
Holy
one
cow.
day a year. Other than that, I am not breaking this curse. Of course, we've broken
Yeah.
the curse since then, and I've been kind of haven't shot any giants here in the last couple of years, but I've taken a couple nice deer and with the bow, which makes it special to me, Like
Yeah.
this deer here on the end, he's not the biggest thing in the world, but he was my first out of state buck, and
Yeah.
it was fun. The whole trip was fun, and that's why I wanted to get mounted to have the memories.
Yeah. That I
He's a
was.
small little feller over there, but it's a special hunt.
Man, that's bigger. So that's I'm looking at it on the screen. Man, I think it's bigger, if not same size as my first ever 8-point I got. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I was just excited to see something with antlers. I was like, God
Right.
dang. And everybody back at camp was super supportive too. They're probably looking at it going like, I don't know if I'd shut that, but hey, good job. But it's I've 2 years, so it's 2019. I out at our company lease, I shot just a monster 13-point, man. It's just a bruiser. And I'm proud of every deer I've shot. And so
Absolutely.
this, I've got 4 under my belt with rifle, and I've got 2 now under my belt in a year with archery. But man, that one I'm most proud of is that one that's above my workbench. My first archery kill last year that measures, 14 inches inside. It's 8-point, and was he the biggest buck? No, man. But like you were saying, it's like everything that, and you mentioned it a couple podcasts ago too. You were talking about all the work that you're talking about hauling out that deer
Oh
and
yeah.
dragging him and everything. And I remember you saying in that podcast, you were like, man, I'm so proud. It's everything that went into that. And
Absolutely.
it's like that dude on my workbench next to my bow, man, that's the one I'm most proud of.
That's awesome. So let's
Um,
talk about a little bit some of the gear that you use. What kind of bow are you toting around?
Man, it's nothing like special. It's nothing. So, my hat here, Gateway Archery in Fort Worth. I, when I was kind of researching bow shops, Google Maps, and they popped up and clicked on a website. Okay, go pop in, and the owner Jim in there, he's in there pretty much every day. It closes I think Sundays and Mondays, but yeah, his wife is in there too, and she does the books, and they're just super nice people, man. I was talking to one day, and she goes, "Yeah, Jim's first love is Jesus, and his second love is archery." And
That's awesome.
he's very very involved with their church and stuff, and he's just such a warm person, man. Just kind of a big dude, but he'll just always just when I was talking to him, he just would take the time to help you and talk you through things. So I did a little research. And I was looking at Hoyt's like entry line bow. They had their Power Max, I think, and then they dropped that I think last year and went to the Torex.
Hmm.
And so I was like, hey, that seems like a good entry line bow. I'm just starting out. I don't want to buy some $1,600 carbon bow.
Right.
So in the Torex use and yeah, so they had one there. Okay, try that out. And it was funny. Jim's like, well, if you jump up to the $1,100 range, that draw's a little smoother. I said, Jim, I appreciate it, but I'm just getting started here. And so yeah, it's a Hoyt Torex, with the stock kit that comes on it. I don't have any special sights or anything. I'm shooting a 6.5 millimeter Easton, carbon, the classic hunter, I think, or whatever they call it.
Hmm.
Um, and with a Q80 Exodus broadhead. And those, Jim was like, man, I shot my first elk 2 years ago with that Q80 Exodus, and it punched through it. And same thing with the 2 deer I got, man. That thing just passed through. So
I have to check them out. I haven't really seen too much of the Exodus broadheads. I have to check those out. But you don't need a $1,600 bow to kill
no,
deer. You
uh-uh.
know, um, the bow I have actually I bought off somebody that was I think it's a 2010 I think is
Mm,
the year that the bow was made, and I'm super comfortable with it. I went and got it set up for myself and everything. I shoot
mm,
the Matthews Monster.
mm,
It's not it. back in the day when they first came out, yeah, they were the bad mamma jamma. But it's not
Yeah.
like the top of the line now or anything. It's probably not even close for feet per second and stuff. But I am so comfortable with that bow. I don't really. It's going to be hard for me to change and get a new one.
Mm.
But I do want a new one. And I've been looking around a little bit at some companies, and I had Jason Burcham on. He was talking to me about the
Yeah. It was a great
expeditions,
podcast.
and I want to check those out. I've been looking at them a little bit, and I think I might try to pull the trigger on that at some point this year. But the one thing that I want to pull the trigger on, and that's I hope to do it kind of soon because I want to get a lot of practice, is the saddle. So tell us a little
Mm.
bit about your saddle setup.
Saddle setup, the saddle setup. Man, I've had one beer, I swear. It's just like there's 7%. Why are you mumbling? No, my saddle setup is the tethered Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
So I texted that video of I think it's Mike Carney from gosh, I can't remember the outfit. They're the group he's with, but he's got Google like tree saddle hunting on YouTube. I think a video where Mike Carney's giving a whole instructional video of getting up the tree and down the tree. That's the one I always send to people. I mean, it's just such a great step by step. But through I think the hunting public, watching all their videos and stuff, they talk a lot about tethered, and so I went on Tether and watched their videos, and I was I really like how he's Greg Godfrey, the gentleman, either started it or he's like one of the co-founders.
Right.
You talked about when you're first kicking things off, you talk about attention to detail, and with work and other stuff too. Yeah, I pride myself on attention to detail, and that was one of the things that really struck me about Greg was like he talked about like all the little things he thought of that he wanted to like sew and incorporate into his saddles and their products. Man, that's really cool. So yeah, tether, got that, the lineman's belt, and the tether, and what else? The platform, just the Predator platform. And then, as far as sticks go, I started out last year with the Hawk Helium 30-inch sticks, which, I mean, they're okay. They're heavy, and they're kind of cumbersome to pack on your back. I thought at the time, I was like, oh, 30 inches, great. It gets me higher up the tree. Well, depending on your backpack and your setup, 30 inches may protrude up to like the top of your head. So
Right.
when you're trying to duck under thick stuff, you're snagging on limbs and you're getting snagging on crap. And then, they connect together, the sticks stack together with a Versa button. And what I was finding was like when you jam those Versa buttons in together, and then when it got real cold, like when I was in Oklahoma one weekend, and I think it was probably 32 or 33 when there was frost on top of my truck when I climbed out in the morning to go hike out and put the sticks on my back. And by the time I finally got out to the tree and hiked in, man, it was like to try to pry those sticks apart. I was having to put 2 feet on a stick and damn near like deadlift motion the stick off, and it snapped that Versa button plastic. So just a little caution for folks if you're thinking about buying a Hawk. What I switched to a couple months ago, and I heard somebody use the term "buy once, cry once" for things a little pricey, but the Timber Ninja sticks, holy shit! The
World of
carbon,
difference.
oh man, those carbon sticks or carbon C1s, yeah, they're pricey, per stick. And you get one that has a retractable aider. You can get one. So I'll set that first one. That first stick I set on the tree, it's got a little retractable aider to drop down and step into.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just so light and just quiet. And I mean, I got the 24-inch models, just easier to pack on your back. They come with a rope too. So you set that stick, rope around the tree, tie a cow hitch knot, and boom. And then I've got an aider that I sling over my shoulder so I can hang from the next stick and get more height. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm up with 3 sticks at 24 inches per stick. I'm up probably about 18 feet,
That's awesome. So
but
I don't really know. Like, obviously I do because I've been watching a ton of videos and stuff on it. Run me through like a morning routine, getting setting up in your saddle.
So getting up, so yeah, it starts the hike in from the truck. So I've heard, a lot of some experienced guys, I guess, on, podcasts say that, hey, you want to try to be that tree like an hour before daylight. And so that's kind of my goal. And so, yeah, you're hiking back in the dark, get there. And then once I'm there, I kind of just switch the green headlamp. I've heard folks debate on whether deer can see white light or green light, whatever. I don't give a shit.
Right.
But green light it is. And so I kind of pull my pack off my back, detach my sticks, pull my platform out of my backpack, zip up my backpack, throw my backpack back on my back. And I've got so I'm hiking in already with my saddle clipped to my waist. And so that way when I'm at the tree, I've got my platform and I've got my sticks on the ground, and I'm pulling out my lineman's belt. I'm throwing my lineman's belt around the tree. I'm clipping that in. I'm setting my first stick. Mm-hmm. And then also, so in my pocket, and I kind of put it in order of what I needed. So like I've got my, tethered also makes I think it's their like a Versa strap, or it's what when you finally get to the top of the tree, it's what you wrap around your tree and clip in, and you set some hero clips, like little fold out carabiners, so to speak, and you hang your bow and your backpack from that. So I've got that in my cargo pocket, and I've got my bowstring that I pull my bow up with. I've got that in the bottom of my cargo pocket because it's kind of like the first in, last out kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And so then I've got so anyways, those are my cargo pocket. And then I'm at the base of the tree, set my stick, foot in the aider, climb up my first stick, and then my other two sticks that I'm using, I've got those clipped into S-beaners. So I've got an S-beaner on my right, S-beaner on my left, clipped to my saddle. Mm-hmm. And so the S-beaner on my right, I just hook in my one tree stick there, and then on the left, hook on my tree stick into that S-beaner. But I take my bow rope, which has a loop on it, and it's tied to my bow. I put that in the S-beaner first, and then I put my tree stick in second, because I don't want that to be reversed as I'm going out the tree, and as I grab that stick, and it like pushes my bow rope out, and then I'm like, shit, now it's on the ground. So it's like, you going back to the detail of things, right? It's that detail in the process that, a lot of, you hear these guys on podcasts talk about too, like it's so important to get out in the woods in daylight first. I mean, yes, practice it in the dark too, because that's where things really get fun. But practice it and go through the motions, man, because that first time you do it, second, and even third time, you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna put this in that pocket. I'm gonna order this thing that way. And so as I'm going up the tree, it's just unclipping a stick, boom, set it, take the aider off my from around my shoulder, drop that on the stick, step in. And so like that video I mentioned, it's very similar to that video where Mike Carney's walking through all that stuff. And then once I get to the top, I'm setting the platform. So really, I guess if I take a step back, when I'm at the tree, I got to kind of identify where I want the shot to be.
Right.
Because then that's the last step, right? So if I work a step back, that's okay. So I want my platform to be 90 degrees from that, right? And then I want my sticks to be 90 degrees from that, because as I go up my sticks,
I want that over to the platform.
Yes, sir, exactly. So I'm going up my sticks. I want to step to my left to get on the platform. Or on the platform, there's my shot. So it's kind of where do I want to be, and then work backwards and work forwards. And so that's really the process. And then once I get up on the platform, I put that Versa strap in. I use the hero clips. Just get them off Amazon. Just search for hero clip, and attach those. Set my, get my backpack up there, hang that, and then just pull that bow up.
So the thing you're talking about wrapping around the tree at the top, that's what connect your bridge to, right?
Oh, so that is the thing wrapped around the tree I think it's called the Versa strap, and forgive me if it's the wrong terminology, but it's basically it's a bunch of loops on a strap, and
Yeah,
you rope
I
around the
got you.
tree and it tethers through. That's purely to like hang your bow and
Oh,
hang your
okay, I
backpack
got
from.
you. But you have to put
But
another deal up top for your bridge, right?
yes, sir. And so yeah, so I've got my as I'm going up, I'm hiking my lineman's rope up the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And key thing with that is always keep it above your waist, keep that high, don't ever let it drop low. But once I'm there, then out of my other pouch that I've got on my right is the actual tether.
Mm-hmm.
So you pull that tether out, rope it through the tree or sling it around the tree, back through itself, and you connect that to your bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I believe the bridge on that tethered saddle is made of Amsteel blue. Um, and so you clip that to your bridge, and on that little clip attachment, you make sure you fasten that little deal down to make sure you're locked in,
Mm-hmm.
and then let some slack out of your lineman's rope to where now you're testing that tension on your tether.
Right.
And so once you confirm that tether's good, you're hanging and you're safe, then you disengage your lineman's rope. And I just put the lineman's rope back in the bag. So
Gotcha. I tell you what, you said you attention to detail, and I'm listening to the story and all of these details that you're going along with it. Have you ever heard of a retractable bowstring or bow
I
rope?
have,
You need to get
yeah,
one of those. It would
yeah,
change
I
your whole
know,
thing. You wouldn't have to worry about that dangling in your process. That thing's connected to your backpack, to your bow down on the ground, and then when you're done, fiddling with all that, you could just pull your bow right up.
yeah, that's such a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because it's one of those things where I'm like, oh man, should I get it? And then I was like, I've been
No, I
delaying
get
on
it,
it.
buddy. It's probably one of the cheapest things that you can buy, but it makes life so much
Mm,
easier because you don't have to fiddle with pulling the rope out each time and all that. Mine's connected. Like I said, I'm filming for a lot of people, so I'm usually the
yeah.
first guy to go up. And that's they probably make fun of me and I don't even know it. When I get to the base of the tree, I always say, "Hey, will you hand me that thing on my back?" And they just pull the string to me, and I loop it through the loop in the backpack from my camera. So I just
Mhm.
climb up, and then I pull my back or my camera up with that. But I carry my backpack is huge that I go filming with, and it looks like I'm going hiking in the mountains elk hunting for 3 or 4 days. It's just huge, and
Yeah.
if I get into this saddle thing, which I am, I have to figure out something with this backpack because
Mm,
I'm not going to be able to fit all that camera stuff in there and have a
mhm.
platform and this and that. I have to figure out how to get a platform, a base, a camera arm, and a camera all in one backpack. I'm going to have
Hmm.
to figure that out. And I
Yeah.
know that, like if I'm hunting with somebody or filming, maybe they could take some of that off of me, maybe they could take a camera arm or something like that. But do they make backpacks that are just for like saddle hunting that give you like some kind of room for that platform?
That's a good question. I've never really looked into it. I can tell you the backpack that I use is made by Alps, ALPZ
Mm-hmm.
Outdoors, and
Yep, I've seen those. Those are nice.
man, and it's funny because like my backpack that I've got, it's got like the little waist wings and everything like that.
Yeah,
It's
mine
got
does too.
yeah, you unzip it, and I got 1,300 more cubic inches to put meat in. It's got the little wings to what and I think I got it for like 160, 170 bucks or something. And it's
Yeah.
crazy, man. Like you go look at something like that in Cabela's and it's like 320.
Yeah, mine opens up. It's weird. Mine actually opens like a book, and it's got
Huh.
like these pockets, and you can actually slide like your bow in there or whatever. That's what it's made for, to
Huh.
backpack your bow in. But I
Oh
actually
man.
slide the camera arm with the fluid head already attached to it down in that pocket, and it's got like three
Mm,
buckles you clip all together. And then in the front big part is where I put the base for the camera arm, which the one I have is freaking huge, and I'm trying to figure out a way to go smaller and a little speedier on the process. But
uh,
and then I have another pocket. It's got my snacks, my water, my piss bottle, and whatnot, and all that in there. I got to
piss
try to
bottles
fit a
almost more.
fucking zoo in this backpack, so I'm gonna have to try to figure something out. I'm sure they got something out there, or for something.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Do you have admirations or any goals to maybe try out any other states besides Texas and Oklahoma?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny. So it was shoot, it was a couple podcasts ago. Y'all were really talking about Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
and that was fascinating to listen to about Kentucky, and yeah, it's because that's one of the things too that just about bow hunting in general was. So because where I really kind of got into bow hunting, I guess I take a step back was, man, I think I listened to Cameron Haynes on Joe Rogan,
Mm-hmm.
and I really liked, not that I'm gonna run a marathon a day like Cam Haynes does, but his whole attitude about, don't make excuses, man. Anything you want in life, like go after it and go get it, And I realize
Absolutely.
I realize there's some folks that are in hard situations and stuff, man. Depending on how you grew up or whatever, there's some things outside of your control. But
Right.
I feel like for most people, it's hey, there's just anything you want in life, just go out and get it. And so that really fired me up. And like with work, I was on a kind of tough project, stressed out. I got away from working out and stuff. Now, seeing Cameron Haynes, starting to follow him, it really kind of fired me up. And so I started running, and then I obviously was aware of his bow hunting. I thought all of a sudden this light bulb clicked on. I was like, man, I started looking into like public land in Texas, and I was like, holy shit, there's a considerable amount. There's a lot. I mean, vast majority is private here, but
Mm-hmm.
man, there's public land here. There's public land in Arkansas, Oklahoma. It's like, if I learn how to bow hunt, it's like this key that unlocks this door to go explore the wild. And
Absolutely.
I was like, holy shit. So I was like, I called up a buddy of mine, or I texted a buddy of mine. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting an archery. And he's like, dude, archery, bow hunting is my fucking jam. And so he called me on a Friday, man. We spent 2 hours just telling me, he's like, hey, go watch, if you want to learn, do things right way, like go watch like John Dudley at Knock On, like his school of knock and his techniques and stuff, and the mechanics of bow hunting, like start there. So he really like pointed me in the right direction. But kind of long answer to your question there. Absolutely, because like I said, it was just kind of this light bulb was like, holy shit, here's this key to unlock the door to the wild, to kind of go
Right.
explore. So
And
yes,
it's so
sir, yeah,
cool to
absolutely.
see, terrain in other places.
Yeah.
Like most of the places that I'm hunting here close to home, it's flat, cornfields, some bigger sets, some smaller sets of woods. I mean, not really a whole lot of elevation changes, And then I go to a place like Ohio, and then I'm hiking up fucking what seems mountains to me because I'm used to such flat land. And then Kentucky will wear you out. I've been down there turkey hunting a bunch, and the last time I killed a bird down there, God rest her soul, my great aunt lived at the top of the hill, and I got to the top of that hill with that bird, and I couldn't even talk. She's like, "Oh my God, you got one!" I'm like, "Hold on a second, get
Yeah.
ready to puke because it's like straight uphill." But
Wow.
I hope to get to go with Jason and my neighbor Adam and them guys that go to Kentucky every year. And the first year that I go, I'm not even going to scratch the surface and trying to do it myself. I want to film one of them. I want to
Yeah.
film because they telling stories about shooting wild hogs on this property and all this, and I think with the saddle would be cool with two guys because you only
Mm-hmm.
need to bring in one set of sticks. One guy
Mm-hmm.
goes up on one side of the tree, the other guy, the camera guy could figure it out, and I think it'd be cool to have that kind of setup,
Yeah.
But if they're taking climbers, then I'm screwed,
Yeah.
But hunting other states is a blast, man. Yes, it costs money to buy a license out of state, like we were talking, but dude, it's a blast.
Yeah.
I have just as much fun back at the camp. I mean, obviously hunting's fun, but me and Ryan, we had the campfire going, and
Yeah.
drinking beers and partying with the guys next door and stuff. Like it was just it was an adventure, and I'm all for adventure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly, man. That adventure is just what's exciting, man. Just going to those little small towns, and then like when you stumble on I'm a big fan of diners, man. Like there's just a
Oh,
diner where
absolutely,
all the
man.
blue collar people go, and the 5 old guys, regulars, are up at the front counter. You're like, God dang it, this is America. It's like it's
Oh
just
yeah, that's funny you say that. We did stumble into a small diner like that. As soon as we opened the door, There's
Yeah.
5 old farmers there, bullshitting each other, giving each other hell and stuff, and they're talking about, do you guys watch Dancing with the Stars last night? I'm like, what? They're talking about farming. All of a sudden, some guys talking about Dancing with the Stars, and then they give him
Yeah.
shit, and we're all me and him, we're trying not to get involved in the conversation because you can tell we're not from around there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're all, just look hillbilly as hell, which I don't get me wrong, I'm a hillbilly too, but you could just tell that they're down to earth country folk, which I love, So we bullshitted with them a little bit, and that's cool that you say that because I like finding. It doesn't really have to do with hunting, but I like finding those dive bars. You
Oh,
go in
hell
there,
yeah.
get you a couple beers, and next thing you know, you're eating the best damn burger you ever had. Just a little
Hell
hole in the
yeah.
wall dive bar.
Yep. Oh yeah,
What
that's a great
about
point.
other game? You talk about you're getting on these whitetails. Is there anything else that any other kind of game that you want to pursue at some point?
It'd be fun to go out, elk hunt one day. Like, uh, you know, there's a buddy I work with who's been on the mountains of Colorado, elk hunting and stuff, and I think that would be, and just hearing those guys talk about it, that they hear the bugle and the call, and they're like,
That'd be
man,
cool.
just seeing, they're like hearing it and seeing on video, it just doesn't do it justice. Like, but once you're in the forest and you hear that in front of you, I just think that would be such a, if I'm fortunate enough to experience that one day, that would just be, I
You
know I'd
need
probably
you
have
need to try turkey
goosebumps.
hunting because turkey hunting
Oh,
can have the
yeah.
same effect. Most people will say, "Man, that guy will have me fired up." Somebody that's never done it might think, "Man, you're weird." You know what I mean? But like when you know that you're there and that's the game that you're chasing, and the
Mm-hmm.
woods is starting to come alive. The sun's just starting to break through the trees, and all of a sudden, I mean, you're sitting there like a crackhead, like just shaking because you don't even know what to do. But it's
Yeah.
fun, it gets you fired up. Like last year in Missouri, I was bow hunting turkeys the first
Mm-hmm.
couple of days, and we had this turkey come out about 70 yards, and he's just hammering, 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 hammering. And I was sitting in the blind. You could probably see it at one point in the video. The bow's shaking because I'm sitting there like fired up because I think he's coming. With turkeys, blinds don't bother turkeys. So like you
Hmm.
can set your blind up in the middle of a field and hunt turkeys, and it
Huh.
doesn't bother them. Like go check it out. Turkey hunting in Missouri. It's one of our YouTube videos. We have a hen. I could have reached out and grabbed her out of the blind. She was that close to my blind.
I'll
I
be
mean, it's
damned.
crazy. I was talking to Birch off the record when our show was done. We were talking about turkeys, and he's talking about bow hunting them. He said the first turkey he shot ever bow hunting the turkey that he shot brushed up against his blind coming out into the decoy. I was like, wow,
Oh
like,
my gosh.
yeah, most people don't know it, but the blinds don't bother them turkeys. You can set them out in the middle of a field, man. It just don't bother them. I don't know why or what the scientific purpose is of that, but yeah, it don't bother
Hmm.
them. It's pretty cool,
That's
but you need to
interesting.
try turkey hunting because you'll be fired up. You'll be like, fuck these whitetails. I'm going turkey hunting. I ain't kidding you. It's an addiction just as bad
Yeah.
as chasing whitetails.
Oh man, I'm like, do I need that? Am
Yeah,
I
well, it's better
like,
because it's a total opposite of deer hunting. It's in the spring, and
mm-hmm.
and it can be warmer weather. You ain't got to worry about their scent and stuff like that. They can't
Yeah,
smell, so
that's a great point.
it's fun. But I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on, man. I've had a good time talking with you and everything, and maybe next year or something we get you back on and hear about your deer season. Hopefully, you kill a giant, man.
Yeah, no, yes, sir. No, like I said, it's funny because I've listened to, a few of the episodes here, and like, and some of the guys that you've had on have just been hunting for years. Like you said, you're yourself too. You have all this experience. I'm like, just man, I've been hunting for a year. I'm just like, what am I doing on a podcast like that? I've all these other guests you've had. I'm like, holy cow! Like I am not worthy. Like, like,
Well, I wanted to hear your experiences when it came to public land and the saddle hunting and
yeah,
stuff like that. But you took a different approach on some other stuff that I just caught my attention. I thought would be cool to talk about.
cool.
And I'm glad that you came on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity, man. This has been fun. It's a blast, and yeah, I'm just thankful. Thank you.
No problem, man. But Thanks for everybody for listening and checking us out on the YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go Wild. Got the shirt on tonight, and that's actually where me and Scott met, was on the Go Wild. But thanks for everybody for listening in, and we'll have another one here next week. I appreciate it.